Good morning again, folks. This is the second time. The dog is insisting I'm going to pet her. She's pretty insistent and forceful. Okay, it's still October 17th, middle of the night, early in the morning. If I was president, the first thing I would do would be apologize publicly to Vladimir Putin. And I would beg his forgiveness. And I would beg him to bring his case to the world. I want to hear what the man has to say. I want to know why he feels, and I don't think his feeling is far off the reality, that this is an existential threat to Russia, because I'm pretty sure he's right about that. So I want to know what the danger is. I want to know who did it. Who did it to him? Who did it to them? I'm going to tell you right now, Barack Hussein Obama is the jackass behind all this stuff that's going on right now. But there's somebody that pulls the strings even further beyond him. So, the very second thing I'd want to do is surround Washington, D.C. and take my government into custody. I'd want to arrest all the congressmen, all the senators, and the Supreme Court. And I would tell John Roberts his services are no longer necessary because of his bad behavior. I would also go through the other justices and dismiss them as well, with only maybe one exception. Maybe as many as 4 exceptions, certainly no more than 5. I want to get rid of those who are guilty of bad behavior. Get rid of the dumbass they just put out there because she's just too stupid to do it. Talk about a token black, an affirmative action baby. She doesn't belong there, and she knows it. And then as far as the Senate goes, my God, I'd tell the states, hey, send me senators from among your state legislators. Oh, and you're paying them. You are going to give them the wages and benefits to which you feel are appropriate. And they're subject to instant recall at any time they don't vote the way the state wants them to vote. So, that takes care of that damn 17th Amendment and this glorified super congressman, which really desecrates the Constitution horribly. It ruins the republic. I think I'd also be demanding the governors of the states reconstitute their governments with organic governments and not corporate entities like they have it right now. Everything right now is set up for profit. It's set up to be corrupted. In Congress, oh my God, I look forward to taking Nancy into protective custody. Bill Gates, think I'd ship his ass to India. I think they'd like to talk to that boy over there about, 500,000 girls that he paralyzed or killed with his concoctions over there. Georgie Soros. I don't know if Great Britain or Russia wants to deal with you, but I think you've got some crimes to fess up to. I'd like to give you to Vladimir Putin myself just as a gift. Tell him you can do with him what you want. The only thing is when you're done with him, we want him back. Same to India. Do with him what you on Gates. Do with the gates of hell what you want. And when you're done with him, we want him back. Of course, if he's still not alive, okay, we'll accept that. As far as the Rothschilds and these bankers go, I think I'd be taking them all into protective custody for their own good. My God, could you just imagine the troops in D.C. all the way around and taking into custody every FBI agent, every CIA agent, every member of the Department of Homeland Security and a lot of these other agencies, including the ATF, and then debriefing them according to the crimes they've committed against the Constitution and the American people. Wow. Truth and reconciliation. What were those things they ran in South Africa a while back when the blacks took over? They were going to have these truth and reconciliation, which basically didn't seek to know the truth at all. They just were going to take it out on the white people. Anyway, I think that I would order the Federal Reserve taxed at 105% of its profits since their inception. That should keep them busy. And you might think, well, that's not fair. You're taking away all their profits. Well, they had all of this phony interest they charged us forever. The money didn't exist anywhere, and yet we had to pay it back, which meant we were always going to be bankrupt. It was a perpetual system of bankruptcy and enslavement that they foisted off on us. I would circle the wagons as best I could. I think I'd bring home our boys and our troops for the most part. I know you guys out there are riled up and you want to go to fight for us, but you need to understand we've all been had. We've all been deceived. Oh, I would love to see the original 13th Amendment called up and put into full force, full action. Because I want to put the attorneys in their places once and for all. And it's going to be fun. And I'm going to tell the attorneys, you guys can straighten this out. But if you do anything in secret, it's the death penalty. And if you tell any lies, it's the death penalty. Same with the police. If you lie about anybody on your reports or any of your charges or in any of your evidence, it's the death penalty. We'll put an end to that stuff right there. Well, I'm just talking off the top of my head. We know this is all not very realistic and pretty extreme. And I really wouldn't want to see that much blood going down the streets either. I wouldn't mind some bodies hanging from telephone poles, especially decorating D.C. But, this FBI is no good. They've been committing a lot of crimes, a lot of obstruction of justice. The Department of Justice is no good either. Especially that Attorney General jackass. He's been staying out of the limelight as best he could because people were going to come down on him. You have to understand that the World Trade Center was an inside job and an outside job. Found that out from a contract guy for the CIA. Yeah, he was in bad shape at the time, and he opened up to me, and he really shouldn't have. And I couldn't identify him. I couldn't tell you who he was. I don't really care at this point. But he was right. He told me it was an inside job and an outside job. It had to be both. And from his estimation, there was somebody with a laptop computer sitting up in Canada running the whole show. Dick Cheney ran that show right in the White House. And his daughter, horrible individual. And the Bush family's been busy killing other presidents and hiding it. And the Bush family was busy taking down the trade towers and hiding it too. All these people need to be brought to justice. Man, that's a lot of work. It's going to be a tough job. Who's going to pay for it all? Who's going to have the energy to do it all? Well, the way I see it is there could be a lot of legitimate employment going on. But I'd send all these congressmen home and tell the states, okay, elect your congressmen or women and send them. They're not getting any pay and they're not getting any benefits. They support themselves. They volunteer their time. And when they can no longer afford to support themselves, they go home and go back to work. With the idea that only men and women who have been successful, who have earned more than their living, and have money in the bank, savings, will be holding the purse strings of the nation. They'll be managing our funds because they know how to manage businesses. None of this hogwash that's going on today where you have dumbasses in there. And the South was right. The South was right. And we need to restore the Jeffersonian Republic. I think that we need to go to a one-term, 6-year term presidency. That's it. It wears these men out too much to do 8 years anyway. And 4 years certainly wasn't long enough. This interstate commercial code that's been foisted off on us needs to be revealed. The fraud, the social insurance. I know you're going to say he's one of those guys who's going to take away our Social Security. You need to understand that you have no security, that they actually hold monies, vast monies, in your name that they don't tell you about and they don't give you access to. They keep it circling in the system. So when you find out how much is on your account, if we give you a choice between do you want a monthly check or do you want a lump sum, you're going to want the lump sum because it's so damn much money. And you can do a better job managing it than the government can. Oh, speaking of money, I'd say we're going to go to silver coins immediately and even gold. We'll monetize labor with silver. But as far as the gold goes, we'll let that float freely in the market and let it be determined that way. And no more of these banknotes and this fractile banking. It's not going to be allowed. Not only that, there's not going to be insurance, federal insurance on the banks. They can be private and they can afford to fail. If they fail, they fail. That's the way it goes. Now, you folks out there who are hiding behind limited liability corporations and corporations, you can't do that anymore. If you want to be free men and free women, you have to be responsible free men and responsible free women, which means basically your assets are up for grabs when you do something wrong, when you cause harm, when you commit a crime. When you damage somebody, you have to make them whole, and you can't hide things. You have to be willing to make them whole. So you can't shelter your assets and hide your assets. I don't know how we're going to resolve that, but that's got to be resolved. One thing I'd be emphasizing is that we're going to return to the militias. The militias' purpose psychologically is for the health of the men in particular, because you want to be a man, a member of the militia in good standing. And you can't be that without passing the muster. In other words, the standards. And that means you're going to have somebody in authority over you, and you may have authority over other people. But the fact is, you will have some authority over you, which means you're also going to have backing. So if you've got a major decision to make and you don't know which way to go, you go to your superior, and they can go up the chain of command as necessary. So you've got support. And you will be required to be armed. Not only that, I think the government should issue full battle rifles. Each man gets his own battle rifle. Perhaps you and I, perhaps we will see fit to actually provide training with marksmanship and at the same time issue a battle rifle. That's your rifle for life. And then maybe we should have celebrations. Let's see, we could do one on the 4th of July. And we could supply ammunition because those weapons those arms will be selectable fire. They'll be full auto. They'll be tri-burst. They'll be whatever you want them to be. Ammunition's kind of expensive, but for your particular battle rifle given to you, assigned to you, you have to take care of it, and you have to keep it sighted in. You have to shoot it at least annually. So we'll have a picnic, we'll have a party, and we'll have plenty of ammunition, and we'll have a good time. We'll have a blast. I would love to see us not have to have standing armies and standing navies and all that. But when it comes to the Navy and the Air Force and those sorts of things that are so hardware oriented, you pretty much got to have them. I don't know how to work that out. I think there's going to be men out there that can sort that out better than I can. And as far as you ladies go, I like the program that Adolf applied. Why? He gave your husbands work and got them out of your hair, got them out of the house. They felt good about themselves, and they brought home a nice paycheck, and you were taken care of. You were sheltered. He even gave you housing. And there's no better economic stimulus program than children. Children are the great motivator. I should know. I don't have any. I know. I did not think that I was suitable. I didn't think I was ready. I didn't have the wherewithal. I wasn't put together enough. Didn't have enough wealth. Didn't own a house. Didn't have income coming in enough so I could support a family for a long time. So I delayed it. And unfortunately, the society, the culture changed so much during that period of time. Divorce became really prevalent, and most of my friends been married and divorced several times. These courts that we have, the family courts, have been designed to take apart families. These government programs have been designed to imprison you all and to screw things up. Just to give you an example, everything's been centralized, and Child Protective Services has been rigged up just like the criminal justice system, so the states get to profit off it. So they get to make money from the federal government off taking men's freedom away. There should never be an incentive like that. And the same with the children. So your biggest child trafficker in the world, well, at least the biggest child trafficker in the United States of America, is the government. It is Child Protective Services, where people are rewarded for taking children away from parents, and they basically sell them. They basically make money off them. So that's got to end. That's got to end. We've created a system that is so corrupt, so abusive, that we probably have a hitman. You can call him a CIA asset or an FBI asset, because they got hitmen in the FBI too. There's probably a hitman every mile and a half of this country, so they could call upon somebody in a heartbeat to take out somebody else they want gone. Seth Rich, I want his crime solved, and I'm willing to bet you the FBI was behind that one. President Kennedy, let's solve that crime. The FBI covered it up and killed a lot of people covering that one up. And the CIA, well, there's the guys that screwed up. It is too big. Everything is so big, and it's so damn corrupt. It's evil. So we have to somehow make good out of it. That's our job. We have this shitty mess, and it's not our fault, but it is our responsibility. Well, we can debate whose fault it is, that's for sure. But as far as responsibility, nobody else is going to take care of it. So we real men have to take care of it. It's like rising up to fulfill the Bible. There's parts of the Bible, prophecies that haven't been fulfilled yet, that we actually have to fulfill. And we will fulfill. But right now, in order for the book of Obadiah to get fulfilled, more of you and me, more of us have to die. More of you have to be killed before you finally get enraged. And right now, they're busy doing that. So what's it going to be? You're going to wait until they actually nuke us before you rise up in rage and take your government back? Or are you going to rise up and take it back at the grassroots, at ground level all the way up? You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just have to restore it the way our founders gave it. And believe me, that's going to keep us plenty busy for a long time. And it's going to be a major improvement over what we have now. So those jackasses that we put in power today that do this horrible stuff to us and sell out to other people and allow these weapons and stuff, I'm sorry, but 5G wasn't tested out fully before it was deployed. Whose fault was that? Who was in charge? These vaccines were not fully tested out before they were deployed. Who's in charge of that? Whose fault is it? Yeah, you guys want to go worship some damn man. Don't worship any man. I swear, a middle-aged housewife could run this country better than any of the Congress could. Matter of fact, maybe we should just put a middle-aged housewife in charge of the budget. I mean, let's face it, somebody who's motivated for the greater good could be the dictator over all you. Walk around with a rolling pin for making pies, right? Yeah, that would be a symbol. That and an apron. She's going to whack you if you get out of line. Look, folks, you need to understand something. You got to have a sense of humor. You got to be able to laugh at yourself and laugh about things. And I know some of this stuff isn't funny and it's not a laughing matter, but we do laugh at these things. Why? To dispel some of the anxiety it causes us. Because we're in dire straits and we're not very powerful and we're not in charge. But we have a government that's totally out of control. It's a communist government that's happening here right now. I think there's more freedom in Russia than there is in the United States of America. They took us over through our churches. They gave us a bad translation of the Bible so we would worship them. They got a lot of you worshiping the Jews as the chosen people. No, they're not the chosen people. If you read the Bible properly, you will figure out that Abraham, his seed were chosen. And then you're going to figure out there were a couple of offshoots. Yeah. You're going to find out there were 12 dukes that came off of Ishmael. And then you've got 12 tribes that came off of Israel later, after those 12 dukes. So you do have a broader base than what you think that's been blessed. Yeah, you need to read the Bible so you can have this understanding and so you can see things properly and you can make better decisions and you have better exercise over your free will. You're less prone to deception, so you can exercise that free will much better. Yeah, we have a long ways to go. If I was president, the world would be in trouble. It's too big a job for me. I don't have the stamina or the stability for it. I'll be the first to say that. My emotions are too strong and I get too pissed off too easily. But I think I do better job than this guy right now is doing. Whoever it is behind him, whatever's going on there, it's just not right. And what's this? You guys are standing for an obvious pedophile in office? President pedophile? Oh, yeah, and you're going to be respected around the world because you have a pedophile for your president? Or you're tolerating a demented old man that shits himself? And that doesn't know what he's doing or where he is? He's not well oriented? Did he marry his babysitter? And what's with all this stuff about the children all the time and smelling people? and touching girls in public. We're tolerating that? What the hell is wrong with us that we tolerate that crap? The man is demented, and his sidekick isn't suitable for office either. Neither one of them is up to the job. At least when the Republicans wanted to get rid of a president, they got rid of the bad vice president first. So they knew Spiro Agnew was just too damn corrupt and they didn't want him in office. But here it is, you should have gotten rid of the bitch already. But you didn't. So we're going to be stuck with Kamala. Kamala, the bad Harris. How evil she is. No, you guys wanted this affirmative action stuff going on. So what you've got is overt racism, systemic racism. And that's what's going on. And in case you're wondering why there's all these people who seem to have around you, it's because the government's been giving them a lot of money, especially to the illegals. They give those people more money than they give to our own people. And I can't blame the outsiders for coming up here or getting a free ride like they get. Yes, I would shut that border down and I'd declare war with Mexico. A limited war. And I'd send our special forces in after the cartels with extreme prejudice. I don't want to waste time in the courts. However, out of respect to the Mexican people, I would consider handing them over. But the problem is, they're almost as corrupt as we are. The thing is that the Mexican people are much more sane and more in touch with reality than the average American is. You see, you and I think our government isn't corrupt like that. We're more corrupt. We're worse. We've become a shithole. We're not a third world nation. We're a fourth world nation. You don't have any constitutional rights. You have these internet web-based businesses that are ruling over us today. You aren't allowed to have free thought, free communication. You aren't allowed to get good information. It's all censored. It's all screwed up. It's very anti-American. I would, if I was president, round up all of those people in those big corporations. I'd take them all into custody, and especially their boards of directors and their stockholders and their chief officers. Yeah. And I would make sure they stayed in custody a while because I'm going to debrief the hell out of them. And when it comes to the rank and file, I'm expecting their cooperation because I want the big guys. And these are un-American activities. These are treasonous. This is high treason. To manipulate elections, to manipulate science, the data, to lie to the public, which, by the way, is legal for the government to do ever since Barack Hussein Obama was president. And he signed that into law that it was okay for the government to lie. I think that man deserves his own telephone pole. What do you think? I'm glad I'm not president. It would age me too fast, and I'm already on the short order of things. Most of my life has gone past, that's for sure. I have some time left. I'd like to enjoy it. I would love to see my nation restored. I'd love to see the culture restored. But at this point, the evil ones learned in Weimar Germany to go slower. You got to boil the frog slowly, at a slower rate, lest you be discovered and people rebel against you. They're worried about that. I hope that this election goes in a very significant way. Don't get me wrong, I do not like the Republican Party very much. It was the Republican Party that destroyed the Republic. Most of you don't know that. Yes. It was Lincoln and his radical Republicans that destroyed the Republic. And we can go all the way back to 1812 and 1813. And that's when things got haywire. And I would love to go to war against the Crown of England and the British and demand that they return our papers that they took from us. And I give them a chance to confess. I don't have anything against the British people. It's just their stupid ass empire that I don't like. And in particular, I don't care much for their nobility. I don't care anything for their institutions, especially their bankers, those liars and thieves there. And oh, by the way, the city of London, that little bitty place inside the massive metropolis of London, man, I'd surround that son of a bitch and take them all custody. I'd do the same to the Vatican. And in the Vatican, man, I'd love to get a hold of that library. Could you imagine the work for a librarian today that would be possible for an army of librarians? I mean, imagine going in there and having to catalog all of those works, which the rest of us don't know about, and making those public domain and making those available to everyone in the world. The research that would unfold from that would last for centuries, perhaps a millennia. I mean, that would be wonderful. But it's like the kingdom of heaven is supposed to be declared. I already declared that a while ago. Well, my state of mind might be questionable on that, but I felt motivated and I did issue an utterance at one point. The kingdom of heaven is going to be on earth. It's not going to be up in the heavens somewhere. And in case you're wondering, you are living in hell on earth right now, and it's going to get worse here. You've got plenty of resources on the planet. You have enough wealth, enough energy, and enough food so that everybody can come up. The tide could be so big, so massive that all ships would rise. The poor guy across the world could be wealthy. And you're thinking, well, there's not enough wealth for that. Well, what is wealth? Imagine if energy was free. That would make the average earthling very wealthy. That would make the life for the average earthling much more comfortable. That would make life possible for a lot of people that are going to die between now and the end of this year, that are going to die next year. And when they ramp up this war machine that they've set up, this genocide machine, which is as we thought it was early on 2 years ago, when they ramp that shit up and you start dying like flies and stinking up the place, then you'll wish you had acted. These guys don't have your best interest at heart. They serve the devil, the devils. They've got so much going on that we don't know about and so much in the background. I don't know if we'll ever understand. I actually don't want to understand all of it. I certainly don't want to understand all of their evil. I don't want to get anywhere near understanding all of that. But somebody's got to go in there. Somebody's got to be a garbage man. Got to take out the garbage. I hope that some of you young folks realize that the greatest opportunities lie ahead. The greatest accomplishments are in front of us. We have to get control over ourselves. We have to discipline ourselves. And we can turn to each other for a little bit of help in that. I should be turning to others for more help in that myself. There's so much land on the earth, so much that isn't inhabited. There's plenty of room. And there may be a chance that the earth, from the Bible reading from some people, the Earth may return to a previous state in which there was a more dense atmosphere with more oxygen, so we live longer. So that there was another shield up there, so there was less radiation, so we didn't age as quickly. So that there was more land exposed, and we could see these old civilizations and explore those. You know, some of these previous civilizations had incredible technology, much better than what we have today. We're going through a transition on the planet. We're scheduled for a destruction and a rebirth. The end of the Earth Age is soon upon us. I don't know who survives it and who doesn't. I've listened to the different experts. I don't listen to all of them. I don't research this primarily. But it looks to me as though we're going to lose at least 10% of the Earth's population, and maybe as much as 50%, according to the one fellow I respect the most. And according to another fellow who appears to deal more in past archaeology and history, he says that it could be reduced to as few as tens of thousands of individuals. We do know in the Bible that there will be a time in which there will be very few men, and you will look forward to seeing a man so you can have a conversation. So that does sound like an incredible depopulation. We have nuclear war described in detail in the Bible, right down to the missiles and to the MIRVs. Even those things are described in there. And to the detonation, those are described there. Now, don't ask me to pull it out for you. I listened to another fellow's Bible study on that. It's on YouTube in 3 parts. You know, was a nuclear war written up in the Bible 2,500 years ago? And yes, it was. Biological war is also in there. What looks like the smallpox is in there too. Most of the Old Testament has prophecy which has not been fulfilled. And just case in point, Isaiah said that Damascus was going to be reduced to rubble and never inhabited. As far as I know, Damascus is still inhabited, and it's one of the oldest cities on the planet. So the fulfillment of Isaiah's prophecy over Damascus, the people in Syria call it Damish, it hasn't been fulfilled yet. I think we're going to live to see that. I think that may happen in my lifetime. I'm expecting that to happen any time. Turkey has aligned itself with Russia in a very significant way. Turkey is at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, and that's their rightful place to become the land whereby energy is conveyed from one continent to the other continent. The Turkish people can use the uplift that those monies are going to bring their economy, their people. There's a lot that's happened in Turkey, in that continent, that area that needs to be looked at. It's actually far more important than you realize. I've been there myself. I think I saw where was I at? Oh boy, the place where Paul just about got stoned, down in the southern part of Turkey. It was on a river that was disturbed by an earthquake. One thing that was good about the Jesuits is they knew their history. Each Jesuit had to have 2 doctorates, 2 PhDs. Don't know that I like them that much, to be honest with you. I don't really care for their system, and some of their roots are pretty bad, pretty evil. And the Jesuit general is supposed to be the most powerful man on earth, and reports pretty much directly to Satan. The Jesuit general runs all of the secret societies across the planet. And his office isn't in the Vatican. It's across the street from the Vatican, and from his little office, he runs all the secret societies in the world. The Jesuits were started by a fellow who was named Lopez and changed his name to Loyola. Does sound better than Lopez, eh? He was a Spanish dude. He was a Jew. And the Jesuits took over the Vatican, basically. They actually were excommunicated and kicked out of the church for quite a while. Then they were let back in. Do I trust them? Well, you read those damn oaths that they take and you tell me. Now, I got a buddy out there, Jack, who was a good friend of mine, a roommate for a while in Spokane, Washington. We had a 3-story house. He was a really nice guy. Jack McMahon. And I'll be darned if he didn't start going down the road to become a Jesuit. I haven't been in touch with him for years. He's older than I am. He's probably still alive. He panicked and figured he needed to get institutionalized, and he became a Jesuit. I don't know if that's going from the frying pan into the fire or what. But he was a really good friend and a good roommate, and he was older than I, and I wish I had stayed in touch with him. Anyway, folks, I got to get back to bed. I've gone long again, and forgive me for getting carried away. Those of you that are listening to me, wonderful. I appreciate it. Do make sure to get a copy of this Bible. Get a couple copies, one so you can keep it clean and another one so you can study it, mark it up, dog-ear it, mark the letters up, pages, write in the margins, because that's the only way I learn stuff is to really study it and do that with it. I still have some memory problems from my strokes, and like I said, the only reason I know that I've read some of this stuff is because I've marked it up. So that's probably the number one reason why I'm not fit to be president, is I just don't have an intact enough working memory. It's improved a lot. It's improved quite a bit. I couldn't have a conversation for quite a while. So it's improved quite a bit. Could I do counseling? I think I could. Could I practice psychology? Maybe. Could I defend my license? Not against these libtard boards that have run this country into the ground with their psychological practices. You see, they preach diversity, and you have to tolerate others. You have to accept them. You have to hold their opinion and their value system equal to your own. They're teaching narcissism, basically. And they've done their best to disable our nation. They've done their best to undermine masculinity in particular. And the women thought, well, we're getting even. We're going to get the upper hand. Well, women, you've destroyed your own houses. Try to have a good marriage today. Try to have a stable marriage. Most men today aren't interested anymore. Why? We've already been hurt. We've been wounded. The courts treat us unfairly. You treat us unfairly. You abuse us terribly, mostly psychologically, but some of you actually battered the hell out of us. In case you're wondering, it was the black women who battered the black men more than the black men battered the black women. That was the one race that stood out in the research a long time ago. That's suppressed research. When it comes down to who starts battery first among couples, it's equal. Men and women equally go to blows first. So it's, except when it comes to American blacks, the women started at 75% of the time and the men only 25% of the time. I don't know why that is. It's just an observation. That's all that is. You need to understand that we've somehow got to take the sting out of this original sin, because the women in church are pretty much half crazy anyway. But the real problem is they have undue expectations. They live one way and expect a whole nother reward. Doesn't work that way. You've got to live a particular way to reap those good rewards. And as far as forgiving everything and not judging and all that, forget it. It doesn't work that way. You better be judging yourself. And be careful who you befriend. Choose your friends carefully and wisely. Make sure they're looking out for your best interest. The church has put a bunch of schisms out there by teaching a bunch of fallacies out of the Bible, a bunch of untruths. One of the biggest untruths was that Moses was a Jew. No, he was not a Jew. Or that Abraham was a Jew. No, he was not a Jew. The Jewish faith didn't exist until after the Babylonian captivity. And remember, the 10 tribes of northern Israel didn't go home. They broke into the rest of Europe. Whereas the 2 or 3 tribes that went to Babylon came back. Tribe of Benjamin, tribe of Judah, some Levites. I'm sure there were some stragglers of the others. What do you think is the most important thing in the country today? What would be the most important change you think that we could make? Do you think that our nation is more than halfway through its lifespan? Or do we have more than half of our life in front of us? Are you is half of your life behind you? Or is half of your life in front of you? That's an important question, because then it puts you into time. It gives you a bit more perspective so you can plan more. Most women have been lied to. Get your education, pursue your career. You can have a family later in life. No, you can't. Fertility doesn't work that way. By the time you're 30, you have half the chance of getting pregnant as you do when you're younger. So, the truth is, if you want to have a family, focus on having a family. And in case you're wondering, you're given everything right out of the chute, right out of the box, right from the beginning. You are given all of that beauty, all of that youth, all of that comeliness, all of that attraction, all of your fertility. You're given everything right out. And you actually mature faster than men do. I loved it when I lived in Kansas because Kansas had a quaint law. If a woman was 18, she could get married without her parents' permission. But if a man was under 21, he couldn't get married without his parents' permission. Now, that was a good law. And you'll say it's not equal. Well, we don't develop equally. Women mature faster than men. There's no doubt about it. If you're not married by the time you're 23, it's too late. If you really want a good marriage, then hold off on the sex. Reserve yourself. We do know that you bond, and it happens biochemically. It happens chemically. It happens spiritually. It happens in several levels. You become one flesh, not just in the children that you have, but the bacteria that you share in your gut, on your skin. You become one flesh in several ways, And in case you're wondering, there is a limit to the number of men you can pair bond with. And you may say it's not very fair. Well, we were created differently. And what's the limit for a woman? The limit for a woman is, that's it, 5. You get a handful. Where do we get that from? Well, it comes from the Orient. A woman who's been with more than 5 men, that's it. It's over. We also get it from the Bible. Yahshua tells the woman, at the well, she's been married 5 times, or she had been married 5 times, and she's not married to her current man that she's with. So she had 5 previous husbands. But number 6 was not a husband. He told her, as she said to her friends, everything she did. And he also told her, go and sin no more. And she also recognized she was the one that declared he was the Messiah. Pretty important place in history, don't you think? I wish we had her name. I think her place in history is that important. We should have gotten her name, but we don't. So what ends up happening is, as a young woman, you're able to merge, to meld, to bond. However, when you have sex with another man, you override the previous bonding. And you can override your biological chemistry. You can override that a few times. But it goes away quickly. And so in my estimation, and you probably won't hear this anywhere else, you got 5 chances at the most. And the way the people in the Orient believe, if a woman's been with 5 or more men, she's no good. So when she gets to that 5th one, that's it. She's not going to bond with anybody. She's stuck in that lifestyle. And it appears as though that's really hardwired into women. They don't want to research that, but the latest research showed that women are hardwired like that. Now, I'm going to tell you what you can do about it, because I love to give solutions when I tell you the problem. You know, a lot of people have had problems with drugs. It throws their body chemistry off. From the research, it appears as though if a woman who's been with a lot of men decides she wants to be faithful and pair up with one guy and keep that relationship and strengthen it, that she can do it. But it's a lot of work, and it requires effort. But that doesn't mean it's impossible, because we have a lot of women recovering from drug addiction, substance abuse, drug addiction, drug abuse. And it's about the same thing. So the same things that you use to overcome your addiction and to maintain yourself that day, you have to do to stay loyal to that partner. So you can do it. You can do it. You just have to practice it every day and get up every day and say, hey, I'm not going to go doing that other stuff. Today I'm going to live my life this particular way. So it does take that kind of a decision. So that spiritual, that psychological activity, that determination of your will sets you up for that day so that you get through that day being loyal and faithful. Now, I don't like to see you focus on that too much, because that seems like it could be counterproductive. But if you're having a problem, or if you're worried about your relationship, you can do some of these things that those recovering from drugs have done and continue to work on their recovery. You can do something along those orders. Now, with men, it's quite a bit different. We bond, and we bond a lot more than what people realize, and especially what we men realize. And so we do get tore up as well. But it's not set up the same way. Our chemistry is different. A woman's chemistry is much more complicated and requires greater balancing than a man's chemistry does. So ladies, think of it as a crown. You have to balance the crown upon your head. It's a balancing act. You are constantly changing, shifting around, so you can hold that femininity, hold that womanliness intact and together. And if you don't like it, well, that's just the way it was. Unfortunately, you're burdened with this extra stuff. This is one of the reasons why a man creates a protective space and protects his woman. She has to have a safe place in which to be able to manage herself, in which she can be a woman, in which she can exercise her femininity. Now, that doesn't mean manipulation, Because when a woman uses those extra capacities given to her by Creator Father Yahweh God, He gave you these extra capacities for the purposes of motherhood. But when you misuse and misapply those talents and those purposes to manipulate for womanly means, it runs counter to your nature, quite often very counter. And you drive yourself crazy. You do have to maintain a balance in so many domains. It's not funny. And you are subject to more shifts in chemistry than a man is. Well, folks, thanks for going with me again. We started talking about what I'd do if I was president. We ended up talking about you ladies and what you can do to take care of yourselves better and give you a little bit of hope. I got one more tip for you that I got to get out now, and this is going to be a long one. Well, the whole video is long. We're already at 55 minutes. We're at double nickels already. Abortion is carcinogenic. And I know that because the science and the research that's been done has got a limited amount of structure to it. It's not at the highest of levels. That we can only say it's correlated. We can't say it's causal. You can't, but I can. So I declare it's causal. Abortion causes cancer. And I believe Creator Father Yahweh God designed that body, designed our bodies too, designed that body of yours so that when you went against your nature and you killed your own child, aborted your baby, you would be prone to developing breast cancer. And in case you're wondering, the later in the term of pregnancy the abortion is, the higher the breast cancer risk goes up. It gets to the point where it's almost 100% at the end. So you may think, wow, they're just going for my freedom so I can decide whether or not I want to kill the child at the last minute so I'm not going to be stuck with it. Well, the thing is, they're trying to extend it so that you will kill your child and kill yourself too, because you will get breast cancer. And there was a Indian physician, an MD from India, who did the research. It's in my blog, not the current blog, but in one of the previous blogs. Do a search in the blog and you'll come up with it. And he gives you the time in the pregnancy and the increased risk for breast cancer. Now, I'm going to give you the cure. The way I see it is that you can fix the problem if you've had an abortion. I don't like telling you this because I'm pretty angry because I found out that a woman murdered my child, or was going to. Got in a car accident first and had a miscarriage while she was on the way to get an abortion. I guess she thought this was one way to endear herself to me, or me to her, I should say, because then I'd be more loving and caring because she had had my child. Well, I did my math and I did my thinking, and the time periods, and it wasn't possible. I don't think it was possible. And the manipulation was really strong to have an affair. And I don't want an affair. I mean, well, I could tell you more, but I really don't want to violate a confidence completely because that individual may see this or her husband may see this. And I don't want to. I avoided that. Not going to have an affair. Not going to do that to anybody else, to myself, to the woman, or to her husband. Just definitely not to myself in particular. Anyway, if you have a child to full term and nurse the child for a good extended period after birth, I believe that you will have activated the natural processes in your body and you'll overcome the risk to breast cancer. Now, I don't know how much you overcome the risk, if it cures it or whatever, but it just makes sense to me that because you've interfered with the natural process of motherhood and the pregnancy and breastfeeding your child, because you've interfered with that, If you go ahead and get pregnant, have the child, and nurse the child, I think that if you take all those steps, you can mitigate some of the risk for breast cancer that you assumed from having an abortion. So I realize a lot of you don't have a chance to get pregnant, that you let that time go by. So you might want to share this with younger women, is that Dr. Kent says abortion is carcinogenic. It causes breast cancer. And the research is not very complete. And I don't think we can get the research done because the masters, our masters that own this and run this plantation, that own you and I, would not want us to get any help, would not want us to know the truth and the facts about this stuff. So they're not going to allow this research in the universities, certainly not these government universities. So tell these younger women, if you've made the mistake of, don't make the mistake of having an abortion first. Don't do it. If you've made the mistake of having an abortion, then make sure at some point to have a child to term and to nurse the child to protect yourself. Because then all of those processes, all of that chemistry gets going in your body naturally and normally. You know, one thing I didn't realize was how serious postpartum depression was. I guess we men, because we don't go through it that much, we certainly don't bear the brunt of it the way you women do. That's one of the things that I didn't realize, how serious that was and how universal it pretty much is. I've only seen a few women that were giddy about being pregnant and having children. I mean, they are like in la la land. They are so happy. I mean, some of the happiest and most radiant women I've ever seen are more beautiful and happier when they're pregnant than at any other time in their lives. And some women, I mean, there's one woman I'm thinking in particular, a friend of mine on Facebook who's a single mother. She looked absolutely horrible, miserable. She looked weird, to be honest with you. Now she's had a baby, and you see pictures of her. She looks so happy, so wonderful, so well adjusted. She's really attractive. She looked pretty weird before, but now she's like, wow. Anyway, she's a youngster. She's a child. I understand that. Yahweh bless America, and may my advice, may this help guide you through the day. May you have gotten something from this video.